Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Leadnap Gaming. On today's episode of What Is, we're talking about griefing, and this is a topic that has controversy throughout the verse as different people define it differently, or have varying beliefs over what should or should not be allowed. To get started, I'll define griefing as illegitimate conduct that prevents other players from playing the game. Now, mind you, this illegitimacy stems from conduct that falls outside the game's moral or legal ethical codes and cannot otherwise be prevented via gameplay. I place griefing on a spectrum, as there's some conduct that falls in the middle of this spectrum that sits in a gray area, as play that may not be griefing as defined, but still questionable, or that is technically griefing, but is still considered legitimate by the player base. For example, take that any gameplay involving Jumptown is legitimate gameplay. The game's legal code defines that selling drugs is illicit, and the game includes provision for players to stop illegal activity. Now, while hauling Widow from JT is illegal, it is also currently the most effective means to make money, and enjoys as a result a curious moral gray area, as those who would otherwise traverse legitimate gameplay loops that are not yet implemented in the game are left performing Widow runs for income. This is where the moral gray area of the spectrum exists, as shooting down anyone at JT is legitimate, but amongst the player base, shooting down full ships leaving JT is considered immoral. To shoot one down is legitimate, but as things are today, were a jury convened, the consensus would likely be that doing so was not legitimate. Generally, the jury is the global chat, and justice is often decided via admonition of the complainant or a crude hammerhead heading to Grimhex. Another example comes at the discussion of piracy, which is currently not yet in the game. A clear example of griefing would be shooting down non-crime stat players running cargo or delivery missions, as nothing currently can be gained except a crime stat for doing so. Shooting down these craft just stops players from playing the game and constitutes griefing. However, stowing away on a ship and shooting the pilot and stealing the ship as it leaves Armistice is not griefing. Not only does the perpetrator gain something from the act, a ship, but the victim had recourse in-game to prevent it from happening by locking their ship and clearing their ship. It may be obnoxious and frustrating, but it isn't griefing. Once piracy systems are introduced into the game, the hijacking of legitimate cargo ships will not be griefing. It's piracy. To summarize, griefing requires the conduct to be considered illegitimate by the game's moral and legal codes, which does mean that interpretations change. While planting an inside crew member of a hammerhead coming to clear out JT, whose job will be to disable the ship internally and thus cause its destruction in the following battle, is immoral, the game's ethical code allows for it, and thus legitimizes it. The Star Citizen universe is by default crime-ridden, and as such, the game's ethical code allows for players to partake in that criminality to support the setting and environment. However, griefing arrives at the end of supported criminality, where it goes from creating the desired environment for gameplay and becomes preventative of play in that space. Let's go ahead and continue the discussion in the comments below. Do you disagree with my definition? What would you add? Would you change anything about what I said was griefing or wasn't griefing? Also, don't forget to hit subscribe, and I will catch you all next time.